Hello, hello, my love. I hope this finds you doing so well. This episode goes live on the day known as Thanksgiving in the US, and I want to take a moment before we dive in to acknowledge that we're commemorating some pretty effed up stuff today, right? Like the colonization and murder of the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island. And so I just want to take a little moment, hand to heart, to acknowledge all the pain and misery that came from this colonization, and to send a little love to all the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island, and to acknowledge that I too, I came to the US when I was like 4 or 5. I too am a settler on this land, an immigrant settler. Yeah. It's important to name what's real, right? I mean, it's one of the things that doesn't happen in emotional outsourcing. We don't name how we really think, feel, what we want, what we need. There's so much fear of being judged, being criticized, of someone not liking it. And that's totally understandable when you're sourcing your safety, worth, and belonging from outside yourself, right? Like, that makes sense. So we're honoring all that's real, and we are deciding what's next. We're living into intentionality. Right? That's our whole goal here on Feminist Wellness: regulation, choicefulness, intentionality. One of the places that so many of us are not intentional and choiceful is in our spending. I had a beautiful conversation with Paige Pritchard. She's just a freaking powerhouse, but also a stop overspending coach. She's a finance coach, and she's really brilliant. I really like her work. And we had such a great conversation on her podcast. I wanted to share it here with you because if you're hearing this on Thursday of Thanksgiving, what's tomorrow? That's right, Indigenous Peoples Day. But also Black Friday. It is a day when we are incredibly encouraged by capitalism to overspend in extractive ways. Right, in ways that are not about just commerce and community and getting what we need, but getting like overspending, over-consuming, over, which is what capitalism is at its core, right? It's extractive, it's over, it's more, it's beyond need. So I thought, what better time than to share this amazing conversation with Paige, all about overspending and our emotional outsourcing habits. I'm going to have her back on the show in the spring to talk more with us. And for now, I really hope you enjoy this conversation. If you do, please head over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to Feminist Wellness. Give the show a 5-star rating, please, and a little review. The review can take like 2 seconds. Like, I like show. Done. Easy peasy. Beats. Bears. Battlestar Galactica. That is a review that I would not just accept, but I would probably print and put on my wall. Like, I would frame that. But not like that chintzy where it's like I am behind plastic. I'm going to go to a thrift. I'm going to find like an ornate gold frame with like really nice archival glass. I'm going to pay $2 for it. I'm going to be thrilled. The thrift is going to be like, oof, one more of those gone. And I'm going to frame that review. So make my day. Come on now. All right, cutie pies. I'm so excited to share this with you. Oh, if you don't know, the podcast world, the more rates and reviews a show has, the more ears it gets into because the higher it comes up on search. And my goal in doing this show that I spend an awful lot of money on and time on and energy on is to be of service. And so I want to be of service to as many people as possible, and I need your help for that. So I am giving thanks for you. And I want to invite you to give thanks to your beloved community, your chosen family. If you are with your family of origin today and it's not feeling great, I want to encourage you to remember the most magical room in any building, which is the bathroom. Go to there. Excuse yourself. If people think you're having GI issues because you're like getting up from the table every time racist Uncle Kevin opens his mouth, then like, so be it. Get up. Go, find your ground, find your feet, orient your nervous system, breathe. If you're like, what is orient my nervous system? Welcome to my world. Welcome to this world of nervous system healing. I'm so glad you're here. Head on over to victoriaalbina.com. At the top of the page, download my meditations. There's an orienting exercise in there. It's yours to keep. Do it. do it frequently. You don't have to get up from the table to orient. Yeah? Go get your downloads. Go on. Take good care of yourself today and always. All right. Without further ado, because you know I love ado. Why do I love ado so much? Who knows? But here we are. Mwah. Love you. Enjoy the conversation with Paige. Ciao.
Victoria, welcome to the Money Love Podcast. I just honestly, I feel so lucky that I get to talk to you today, just all about the cost of fixing other people's problems.
The feeling is completely mutual. The work you do is so important, and we're not talking about money in these complicated ways. Except we are. You and I
Right,
are.
right, right. Yes.
Right. Other people
Somebody
aren't.
has to do
So
it.
listen, it's a tough job, but we're here for it.
Exactly. I can tell you what, I need your help. I talk about this a lot on the podcast. And what I'm always telling people is I'm like, yeah, I know my work lies in the two P's, and my two P's
Mm,
are what I just refer to them as the two P's in my life, but people pleasing and perfectionism. I'm like, that's
yeah.
me.
Yeah. I mean, it's a whole thing, right? I feel like most of us are
Yeah.
trained up from like little girls to like always be the good girl and don't make mommy unhappy and like you made him mad, and it's
Yeah.
on us to manage other people's feelings and thoughts
Yeah.
and experience of life. And how else could we turn out but
Hmm.
as folks with perfectionist and people pleasing habits? It's like the math is mathing there, you know?
Yeah. It's really funny. I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I've caught myself several times. It comes out of my mouth before I even realize it's coming out of my mouth. And it comes out of my
Yeah.
mouth and I go, oh my God. Like, I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
catch it, but it's like, it's
Yeah.
already out of my mouth and into her ears where, um, she's 2. She's in that toddler phase. She's, tantrums and stuff like that. And right now we're working on hitting, right? Like that's like her
Mm,
new thing is hitting.
yeah.
And I find myself so quickly and so easily, like when she does something like that, like where she like hits me, or even like when she like yells and screams, or she's like expressing emotion, how quick I am to say to
Yeah.
her, like, when you do that, you hurt mommy's feelings. And
Mm,
and then I say it and I go, whoa. Like I feel at least I'm at the point where I catch it after the
for
fact,
sure.
but it's like
Yep.
it's just it's been a really interesting growth journey for me as a mom
Hmm.
to even go
Yeah.
like that came flying out of my mouth so
Yeah.
fast before I even realized that I was projecting that onto her and being like, what you just did hurt me.
I
I'm
mean,
like,
that's what
oops.
socialization and conditioning are all about, though, right?
Yeah.
Like it becomes the soup you're swimming in, and you have absolutely no
Mhm.
idea that you're doing what you're doing. Like we were
Yeah.
talking in, I run a 6-month coaching program called Anchored, and we were talking the other day about overfunctioning, which is, I don't know a mom who doesn't also
Hmm.
overfunction in life. And no one in the room put their hand up when I was like, who's over functioning? They're all like, I don't think I do that. Like, I just do the stuff that needs to get done. Right. And then we talked for an hour, and everyone was like, oh, I absolutely delay my own care, put myself last. Right.
Hmm.
Don't even think about my wants and needs, and then resent the hell out of everyone I love and strangers too, because I did their life for them
Mm.
instead of doing my life. And it's
Yeah.
it's our conditioning, right? And so
Yeah.
I really hope you're giving yourself the grace on saying those things to your kiddo, because we're all just doing the best we can given how
Yeah.
we came up and what got ingrained and patterned into our
Hmm.
psyches, into our brains, into our nervous system
Yeah.
as the like right way to say something or deal with something.
Yeah. I know. And like speaking of that, right? Like one of the things that jumped out to me about your work is just, I think just having like recognition and compassion for not even like where it comes from, but just how it's just so subliminal and subconscious that it's just
Yeah.
it's just like you said, it's like you're like a fish in water. Like you don't even
Right.
realize that you're swimming in water. It's just it feels like your world and it feels like your environment. And I even look at my mom. My mom, one of her taglines, me and my sisters talk about it all the time, My mom is I love my mom. If I talk too much about her, I'll like get too emotional. So we won't like go down that
Oh,
rabbit hole because she's fantastic and amazing and the best mom ever. But one of her taglines is I need to be needed. Right. So she's like always telling us, like, if you need this, let me know. If you need this, let me know. My mom is
yeah.
like, anytime anybody needs anything, she's the first to drop everything and be the first one there. But she's always telling us, like, well, you know me, like I need to be needed. I need to be needed.
Mm, yeah.
And it's just interesting to hear her say that.
Yeah. I mean, so here's the thing, right? And I think as coaches, we talk a lot about this, or you can do the same action from really different drivers. And I think that's what we need to take a look at. So here's where I'm going. I love helping. I identify as a helper. Like I love to help, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love to help strangers on the street if they, your bag breaks and your stuff goes. I'm the first one to jump in and help because I like to do it. And I've done thought work about this. I've taken a good look at it. What we do from our codependent, perfectionist, and people-pleasing habits, and I'll share my definition of codependency. It's when we chronically and habitually source our safety, belonging, and worth from everyone and everything outside of ourselves instead of from within to our profound detriment.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning it hurts us time and again because we don't believe I can be safe within myself, with myself. I can create felt safety for me. Can you make me feel safe? Can this purchase make me feel safe? Can being needed help me feel safe? And the same for belonging and worth, which are these absolutely essential human needs that most of us didn't get met in childhood. Like we weren't attuned to in these ways by our grown-ups. And so we don't think we're worthy of it. So we're chronically trying to source it.
Mm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I love helping, but not because I think I need you to make me safe. I know I've got my back. I don't need you to let me know I belong. I have a vibrant community. I belong with me. I take care of me and my inner children all day long. And worthiness, I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good. But yeah, you're moving on Sunday. Let me help. I'd love to help. Right. So do you
Mm-hmm.
need that's the shift right there, right?
Yeah. I guess how do you know the difference between the two, right? Like how
Yeah.
can somebody distinguish the difference between I want to be helpful and I want to help this person because I genuinely want to
Right.
versus like I'm doing it kind of from that place where it's like to my detriment.
Right. Well, I think there's a lot of different ways. One, look at the result. So when you went and let's stick with helping a friend move, did your back hurt, but you did it anyway? Did your knees hurt and you did it anyway? Was that Sunday that you helped her? Was that the day you were really looking forward to resting after a super long month of
Mm-hmm.
overworking? What did you put off in your own life? Right? Or
Mm-hmm.
no, you had just had Friday and Saturday off. You'd really been filling your cup. You'd gone to a concert with a friend, a museum with her. You were feeling really good and you were energetically giving from your overflow. And so Sunday, after you closed the U-Haul at your friend's place, you felt tired. We're not 19 anymore, but invigorated, but good, but like full up. Right.
Yeah.
And so we
Mm-hmm.
can look at what's the result. We can back it way up and look at the feelings we're having while we're doing the thing. Are you
Mm.
resentful? Are you pissed off? Are
Yeah.
you irritable? Are you itchy and scratchy? Are you a little
Mm-hmm.
right, little hissing cat? No, no, I love helping, but under it, you're like, like how much grumbledom is happening in your mind
Mm.
and your body coming out your mouth when you're doing things for others that often no one friggin' asked you to do and no one actually wants you to do, but you're doing it because you need to be needed. Or while you're doing it, are you feeling so connected? And you know that your friend's going to be so grateful because you're in charge of moving the fragile and you're really good at it. Right. And the
Mm-hmm.
movers are moving the big stuff, but you're moving the paintings and the plants. And she just keeps looking over and saying she's grateful, and your heart just feels full.
Yeah.
So then we can scroll back to the thoughts. What are the thoughts that were driving you? And I think for many of us, that's the hardest one to get to because on the surface, we're just thinking, I want to help my friend. And we really need to do some big introspection to get under that And that's where somatic or body-based practices can really come in to really help us feel into our body. And
Mm-hmm.
to, this is one of the things I teach my clients, is to map what that true yes and true no feel like in our bodies.
Mm,
So that in the moment of, hey, Paige, can you help me move on Sunday? You can feel into your body and just intuitively know.
mm.
Well,
Are
that
you a
takes some
big
time.
proponent? Yeah, no, I love that. Well, and this is, like I said, as somebody who is really trying to work on people pleasing myself, I think that something that this has been really big for me, and that I think when I get asked for something, when there's a request being made in the past, there was really no time or no gap between like the request being made and me giving an
Mm-hmm.
answer. It was like
Mm-hmm.
automatic yes.
Yep.
It didn't matter who was asking. It didn't matter
Mm-hmm.
what they were asking. They
Yep.
could have been asking me to like, hey, do you want to go and, just do something, whatever, something that I
Right.
would
Give me
never
a
do. And I'd be like,
kidney. Right.
sure, like
Sure.
absolutely,
Yeah.
of course. Because I literally just got into this habit and this pattern of yes, 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 always saying yes, always
Mm-hmm.
saying yes. And something that has been really helpful for me is just not giving an answer right
Yep.
in that moment
Yeah.
of
100%.
just kind of like giving myself a pause so that, to your point, so that I can kind of tune in to like, is this an actual yes or is this a no, and not just automatically yes.
Totally. Yeah. I love the 48-hour rule.
Mm. Yeah.
When you're working to heal this habit and listen to your intuition. For some people, I say the 72-hour rule. And I actually had a client recently where I told her it was a 2-week rule. You cannot say yes or no for 2 weeks. She was like, what the? And then she came back a month later and was like, that was amazing. And I was like, God, yep.
Yeah. Hmm.
So minimum 48 hours. If you're a trauma surgeon, it's different. Probably just say yes to do, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
But if there's not fire, flood, or blood, 48 hours.
Mm.
And really like letting yourself feel into it. I also put all of my clients on a no sure diet, like ensure, but the opposite. So, do you want to do this? Sure. That is not consent. Sure. Sure. Fine. No, no, no. Mama's not
Yeah.
having it.
Yeah.
Uh, from your heart, from your spirit, from the animal, I'm going to need a yes or a
Mm.
no. I'll take a let me get back to you. That's fine. Buy some time. Buy a gallon of it. Buy a little
Yeah.
extra. But like, sure,
Sure.
sure. I don't
Okay.
know what to
Fine.
do with that,
Hmm.
right? Like I came up in such a feminist context where like consent was such a huge part of the conversation, as it should be everywhere.
Hmm.
I decline to accept sure as consent. And I don't
Hmm.
think we should allow ourselves to sure fine our way through life,
Yeah.
right? Either you want
Yeah.
to do it or you don't. Either it's in support of your goals, and that goal can be living in more interdependence, supporting your friends, being in community, filling your cup by being of service. Cool. But give me a yes or give me a no,
Mm.
right? And it's such a potent gift to give ourselves,
Yeah.
to say, I will not be neither wishy nor washy on this. I will be firm.
Mm.
And it creates all this spaciousness within our bodies to feel into what that yes and no feel like, and to let that resonance support us to be more choiceful and more intentional and more in our agency everywhere in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. As you're saying that, what's been kind of an interesting realization for me is I used to be so terrified of the word no. Like I used to just be so terrified
Yeah.
to like tell anybody no to anything. It was like
Yeah.
telling somebody no is like the worst possible thing that I could do to somebody,
Yeah.
right? And so to your
Yeah.
point, there were yeses, but there were also sures to the things that I
Right.
like really wanted to be saying no
Yeah.
to, but I was actually saying
Right.
yes to, but like the no's were always sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten more comfortable with the word no and telling people no, it's been such like a cool realization for me to realize that this word that I had so much fear and anxiety around, like when you can give a firm no, it feels so good. It feels way better
So
than the
good.
shores. I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah,
this is
absolutely.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I love
And
this.
here's the swap I tell people to have in their minds. when you're saying that, sure, when you want to be saying no, instead of saying no, and I get that it's scary. I want to honor that, right? Instead
Mm-hmm.
of saying no, what you're saying is, yes, I will resent you.
Mm.
And that's not a freaking stake in the heart.
Yeah.
Yes, I am agreeing to resent you. Yes, I am
Mm.
agreeing to be annoyed with you. Yes, I'm agreeing to talk shit about you behind your back. Yes, I'm agreeing to not answer the phone the next time you called because I don't want you to ask me something and then I have to say no because I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say yes and then I'm going to resent you. So now I'm going to ignore you. I'm not going to answer your texts
Mm.
and life unravels, right? Friendships unravel.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's like anybody listening who's not like, oh God, I've done that. Right?
Yeah.
Because like
Well,
we've all done that.
yeah. And I think that's the I think that that's like the confusing part about all of this because it's like on the surface we feel like so much good is being done. Like we feel like we're doing the right thing. We feel like there's a lot of good being done by us like showing up and helping and being the one that's there when really it's like actually so much damage is being done.
Well, it's the intentionality piece, right? It's what is your intention and what is your capacity? Right? So if you show up to help me move and you're so tired and burnt out and like that you're dropping plants, that you drop that expensive framed art and smash the frame, like it's
Mhm.
not helpful. Please don't. Right?
Yeah.
Or like, have you ever like asked a friend, like, oh, Laura, can I like unload? I'm like had such a shit day. And someone says, like, yes. And then halfway through, you can tell they're like glazed over.
Hmm.
So it's about prioritizing presence and stepping into intentionality. Right. So I say yes when I can be fully present, not physically present. Who cares if I'm physically in the room?
Hmm.
Right. I don't want my friends physically in the room or my partner or my parent. Like, be here energetically, be here in spirit. I want, you know what I mean? Be
Yeah.
here or
Yeah.
don't take care of yourself because taking care of you is taking care of me. Because now you're not creating this weirdness in our friendship where you like half showed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Or you're like, you're there moving and maybe like physically you're doing an okay job, but like you're just
Sure.
like in a terrible mood.
Right. Or like
Right.
being grumpy or right
Hmm.
being terrible to be around. No, thank
Yeah.
you. Right.
Hmm.
So the intention is really, it just matters so much. Right. And
Yeah.
intention, of course, creates impact in most of situations that we're talking about, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
bringing
I'll
this to
also,
the, oh,
oh,
sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
I just wanted to add one thing that I think doesn't get said enough. It is normal, natural, human, mammalian to people please.
Mm.
So you and I, dear Paige Pritchard, we live in a very, very small village on the Sahara a majillion years ago. It's you, me, and 40 other people against lions mostly, right? And scorpions and snakes and scary things in the
Yeah.
night. So I want you to like me. It's pretty freaking important that you like me because when the lions or the marauders come, I'm 5'3". Do you know what I'm saying? I need someone bigger than me to grab me, throw me over their shoulder, and bust a move up a hill.
Yeah.
And thank you. I do not want bad vibes in the village.
Hmm.
No. So, and that legacy, I said a majillion years ago, but it wasn't that long ago in geological time, right? We're a
Hmm.
pretty darn new species kicking around here.
Yeah.
And so it's important to be liked. That's not the problem. It's the to your detriment part,
Yeah.
right? And that's the part to keep an eye on, right?
Yes. Yeah. I was telling you about this before we started recording, but I feel like when we think of people pleasing and the costs of it, we often forget
Oof.
about the financial costs of it
Oh yeah.
and how freaking expensive it can be to be a people pleaser. And I have, you know, women in my community who have told me that they have kind of become the ones in their family that people come to for financial help or financial assistance.
Yeah.
And they will oftentimes give whatever this person is asking for. But to your point, it comes back to almost always to their detriment. Like, yes, they
Right.
have the money, but oh, that money I was actually going to use to like pay off this credit card, or oh, this money I was actually going to
Right.
use to like fund my trip next year. And like now I can't do it because I've given the money to this other person. And
Right.
it's confusing to them. And it's hard. It's so hard because they genuinely do want to help the person. And I think they're kind of this mindset of, I have more financial resources than this person does. So, because of that, the right thing for me to do is for me to give this person money. And it's often like you see this with like parents, like people having to like give money to parents or give money to family members.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard to know that distinction because on one hand you're like, I want to, and then on the other hand you're like, but it's also creating all this other mess over here.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to ask yourself what this is going to keep out of my life.
Mm.
Right. To your point, like, did you want to take that meditation class? Did you want to like invest in yourself, fix up your home, right? Like do something that will improve your quality of life, right?
Mm-hmm. Let's talk emotional outsourcing 101.
Yes. Yes.
I love this topic that you teach. Can you take us through emotional outsourcing 101?
Yeah.
Let's go to
So
class for a second.
I put on your pocket protectors, my nuts. Here we go. Yeah, so I spent my whole life putting everyone ahead of me, staying with people I didn't really want to be with because they wanted to be my date. And so who was I to say no? Just chronically holding myself to A+ standards. You see where we're going, doing all this stuff. But when my good friend Becca said to me, God, girl, you are so codependent. I was like, wait, what? No,
Mm.
I'm not. What do you, I don't even know what that means. And we were like 25. And she was like, and you're like really a wicked perfectionist. I was like, oh my God, no. Do you see how often I F up? I F up like every 2 seconds. Oh my God. I haven't done a load of laundry since like yesterday. Like I am way behind. There's like one dish in my sink.
And even
Perfectionist?
your perfectionism coming
Bumble,
out in this conversation with
right?
her.
Like the most. And then wait, wanting to people please her. Do you think I'm these things? Because if you want me to be these things, maybe I am these things, right? But
Yes.
bum.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't see the forest for the trees of terminology that just suck. That just felt like they didn't encapsulate my experience because there's no way I was a perfectionist for being such a mess up. I obviously wasn't people pleasing because everyone wasn't thrilled with me. And codependent, I'm not like I don't know, Midwest soccer mom married to an alcoholic man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What? But these are the stories that get into our heads about what these terms mean. And it was keeping me from seeing the ways that I was keeping myself, my nervous system, my inner children, my whole friggin' life on this roller coaster of codependent, perfectionist, and people pleasing habits. And so I thought we need a better term. These terms are tired and outdated. Codependency as a term comes from the war on drugs. It's
What
garbage.
does that
It's
even
not
like? I hear that word a lot, but to be honest with you, I don't actually think that I could define it. Can you like what does that
codependency.
mean? Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't even know. Like, what I was saying, like, I really think of it as we were little kids. What every little kid needs is to feel safe, right? To know that when the marauders come, there's a big old grown up with a spear or an axe or whatever their grown up has in their culture. They belong in the community. So when the marauders come, and that they are valuable, worthwhile. So when the marauders come, right? It all boils down to survival because we are small mammals. And if you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm 6'3", cool, look at a rhino. You are small. And so, right. And so if we don't get a firm grounding in childhood that shows us that these three things are true, we can be safe, belong, and have value. We spend our childhood, our teenage years, our high school years, our early adulthood, our college years, our grad school years, our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, etc., sourcing those. It is mammalian and human to take our grown-ups lack on as our fault. Meaning, if your parents, your caregivers aren't attuning to you the way you need them to, and you're 4 or 6 or 8 or 12, it is unsafe for you to believe that they could be the problem, because they're the one with the axe when the marauders come, right? You need to believe in them for survival. You cannot be in doubt. So somebody's got to be an F up here. Somebody's got to be the problem. It's got to be me. Who else could it be? I must be the goat for scaping here.
Yep.
It is me. And so we take that on, which is this huge gaping wound in our hearts, right? That I am inherently bad. I am inherently a problem. And we can, throw other certain religious and societal traditions under the bus, right? As pushing this forward, right? The patriarchy, white settler colonialism, late stage capitalism. We are our production. We are not inherently valuable, right? People in racialized bodies, marginalized bodies, women. We are not we're somehow less than. From jump, from birth, from pink bow on your head, right? And so we spend a lifetime chasing good enough, worthy enough, safe enough, belonging enough. And that's what leads us to not be interdependent, but codependent. I am so scared of you having a bad thought or feeling about me that I'm going to contort myself, manipulate myself, twist myself up into a pretzel to try to keep you from having any feelings that make you not think I'm the best thing ever and save me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sucks.
Yeah. And I mean, think about like how
Burden.
many, I mean, think about like, I'm thinking about all the ways that this infiltrates the way that we spend money too.
Oh my
Like, I mean,
goodness.
oh my God, that could be,
Come
we
on.
could talk about that. How
I
long
mean,
do
I'll
we
come
have?
back. That's going to be part 2. Stay tuned.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah,
but it's just,
100%.
it's just, man, like when you really think about, like one thing that I talk about a lot, I don't know, I'm trying to come up with like how you've come up with emotional outsourcing 101. I'm trying to come up with like a catchy phrase for it, but it's just this notion or this idea of, to your point, spending our money or even managing our money from a place of like internal validation of like, this is what I
Yes.
want to be spending my money on,
Yeah.
and also spending your money from a place of inherent worthiness, not
Yes.
trying to buy like the approval, the
Right.
validation of other
Yeah.
people. But it's crazy. It's like, just even for yourself, think about how much, just I'm saying for everyone listening,
Yeah. Yeah.
think
Yeah.
about how much money you've spent on exactly what you just said. Like how much money you've spent, to your point, trying to contort yourself into this thing so that
Yeah.
you can gain the approval of other people.
Right.
Probably thousands to tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, including like the checkout person at Neiman or Sephora or wherever, when you're like buying
Oh,
something you can't afford, and that 2 seconds of anticipatory dopamine that they're going to be like, oh wow, fancy brand sweater, look at you, when you're putting it on a nearly maxed out credit card, but for that millisecond, someone who's
mm,
not you told you you're worthy of love and care. You're impressive. You're spending big bucks. You must be worthy. We'll save you when the marauders come. Definitely.
mm,
You're on the short list, babe. But
wow.
like you said, that fades so fast, right? It's flash in the pan,
Mm-hmm.
right? Versus really doing that work, which in my world, I do through thought work, looking at our habitual mindset patterns. Somatics, I'm trained in somatic experiencing through the Somatic Experiencing Institute, Peter Levine's work. So somatics is when we look at the body, right? What are the tension patterns in the body? Where are you holding on to emotional outsourcing in your body that's keeping you buying the latest gadget, the latest makeup, the latest iPhone, the latest,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Or I'm sure you have listeners who over thrift, right? Like it doesn't have to be about spending big bucks. It's just over. So
Yes.
anytime we're over, do you mind if I go on a little
Yeah,
buffering
please
tangent?
take us.
Buffering, right? So when we're not in intentionality, which is the cornerstone of emotional outsourcing, we're not in our agency, we're not present in our bodies, we're not here. We're working you. We don't realize we're working you, but we're working you. We're not
Mm-hmm.
present with you. We're not present with ourselves. And I think people get into that sort of fog when they're over shopping, right? I can imagine overspending.
Oh, yeah.
And so much of that is about buffering, which I know is a term you've talked about before. What buffering is when we push our emotions aside, right? When we do something, say something, drink something, buy something in order to not feel a feeling that our nervous system does not have the capacity to feel. And so our brain, our mind really fears, right? And so that could be hunger, that could be sadness, that could be disappointment, frustration, annoyance, anger. God, so many of my clients have such a hard time with anger. I mean, no big, right? Like,
Yeah.
no one's shocked at
Not a
that,
big
right?
one, right?
Women are not allowed to feel angry, right?
Yeah.
And so instead of feeling the thing, because your nervous system thinks it's going to murder you right now, you push it away. And what better distraction than like shiny object syndrome? Is that what it is? Shiny object syndrome?
Mm-hmm.
Like seals and
Yeah. Yeah, it
crows and
is.
monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Shiny object self.
Ooh, I like that. Here we
Ooh.
go. I'm writing that down.
Yeah, I'm good at these. We can finish
SOS.
talking and
Shiny
we'll do
object
some more.
self.
Shiny object self, right? Because you're conflating the shiny object and your sense of capital S self, right? You're
Mm.
making them the same thing. If I buy the latest water bottle, this one's from a decade ago, then I'll be
Mm-hmm.
worthy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then, yeah, yeah, it becomes
There's
stand in for self. Yeah,
yeah, there's truly so much that I see of that happening in my world. And it's just kind of like this, I call it kind of like the hamster wheel that we get ourselves on, but it's just like the hamster wheel where and again, it's really like we've all been convinced that this is the way that the world works or what our buying or consumption will do for us. And
mm-hmm.
yes, in my world, we're talking about buying things, consuming stuff. But to your point, it could be any type of consumption.
Sure,
But it's just, yeah, I feel like it's especially sinister with the stuff because that's just, I mean, it's the world that we live in. It's like every single day you are inundated with it, whether it's on your phone or in your email inbox or when you're walking down the street, past stores or like whatever it is. Like you're
yeah,
exposed to this concept, hundreds of times a day of like stuff can change or add to your inherent worthiness or like how
yes,
valuable you are as a human
right,
being.
right. I'm having this thought sort of starting to come in. Can we workshop it real quick?
Yes,
It's not something
please.
I have like fleshed out, but I'm thinking about values. Like, what do I value? Right. So, little different from how am I valued. So, like, here we go to a co op that most things are in bulk. So, you like bring your used yogurt containers, and there's a whole stack of mason jars and used yogurt containers and Ziploc bags people have rinsed, right? Like the whole ethos is how can we consume as little as possible, right? How can we take as few new things? My iPhone is from the 1400s. It's actually the Christopher Columbus edition. He actually designed it. It was like this. It didn't do well as they thought there would be more synergy, but anyway, he's a schmuck. So what are your values and what matters to you when you're living in emotional outsourcing? You are, because you're not in presence and you're not in intentionality, most of my clients have no idea what their values are, right? They're
Yeah.
just mirrors reflecting back. Oh, you're wearing Gucci. Like, I want to be friends with these PTA moms and they're all wearing Gucci, so I guess I should get some. I want to be
Mm-hmm.
friends with these crunchy moms and they all have really shiny new mason jars. That's, I don't know if that's a thing in Berkeley somewhere, but probably.
It's
But
kind
you
of
know
like
what I mean?
it's kind of like the I saw Regina George wearing army pants and flip flops, so I want to wear army pants and
Oh,
flip flops.
I knew I loved you. And then you reference Regina George, and it's just over now. We're BFFs
There we
with the
go. There we go. But it's
forever
so
and
true.
ever.
Yeah. It's
But like
like,
for real,
mm-hmm.
right? And so, what is it that you value? What are your values that can keep you grounded in self and intentional? So, it doesn't freaking matter what Regina George has. You've got you. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's so hard because emotional outsource, in order to do it, we have to leave ourselves,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah.
interdependence, which is two autonomous humans who know their own worth and value, connect for mutuality and reciprocity.
Mm-hmm.
That's interdependence. So that's,
Okay.
I love your sweater for you. New
Yes.
York over here is in all black. Houston's
Right.
got the color on, let me tell you what. But
I'm
like,
wearing a very
I,
colorful sweater for anyone
it's
who isn't
adorable.
watching the video.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You should
Yeah.
watch it because she looks great. But you look great for you.
Yes.
And I look great for me. And I get to value what matters to me. And you value what matters to you. And I can trust, that's where it is. I can trust that I am lovable and worthy and valuable in difference. That's what it
Oh.
is. That's
Mm-hmm.
what it is. It's this
Yes.
drive towards sameness, homogeneity as safety, which
Mm.
like that's a tale as old as time, right?
Wow. Yes.
Right? Like if conquering armies took over Canada, I we would all try to blend in and not be the one called out to the firing squad. Like, duh,
Yeah.
right? But it is that consumption in the name of the safety of conformity. Ooh,
Honestly, like this is so I love that we're talking about this. This is so
yeah,
good. And even to your point, it's like even just looking at pick anything. Like go like
yeah,
just go around your house and like pick
yeah,
anything. Pick any
yeah.
object, right? I mean, I'll raise my hand in first to say like, I have a Stanley cup. I have one though. I don't have
Okay, good.
15.
Just
I
the
don't have
one.
a
Good.
rainbow wall of them. I have
Oh,
one.
yeah,
But even in like I think that's just like a really like top of mind example to where
yeah,
it's like, how am I? It's just this pack mentality that we're kind of talking about. And I think maybe
right,
just asking and really digging deeper and evaluating, do I actually want this thing or am I solely doing this because it feels safe to do this. Like it feels
right,
safe to buy this mug that every other girl in my, whatever group has. And I don't have to be
right,
the one girl who shows up to the group and doesn't have the thing that everybody
right.
else has. And yeah, that was it happens as adults. It happens as kids, like when you were little,
Yeah,
right?
of
Like when you would
course.
go to
Yeah.
school and everybody would have the brand of this or the brand of
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And if you
Jansport
were the
backpacks.
kid that
Yeah,
had to show up and didn't have the thing, it was traumatizing in a sense, right? Like
it
it can
was.
be.
Well, because again, it speaks to safety and belonging, right? Which are
Mhm.
those
Yeah.
core essential human needs. We need to feel safe and like we belong. And I think it's incumbent on us as the grown-ups, which like it's weird that we're the grown-ups, so that's a whole
I
other
know.
show, to shift the story for the next generation,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And that as humans, we are pack animals. It does make sense that we want to fit in again, but it's the to our own detriment. Where are you
Mm.
outside your values? Where are you outside what actually matters to you in order to fit in order to be the same, right? In
Mhm.
order to be, one of the big things we do in emotional outsourcing is we don't realize we're doing it. So I want to be clear, right? This isn't, it's manipulative in fact, but not in intention usually.
Mm.
Our whole vibe, our whole thing, everything we're doing is about manipulating other people's emotions, right? So they'll be pleased with us, think we're perfect, think we're good enough, marauders.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do through our consumption, through our purchases, through the kind of beer or wine we're drinking, the kind of cup we're carrying, the kind of wedding ring we're wearing, the kind of et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the way you and I have our makeup done, right? Like
Mhm.
it's all to that end of sending a message and attempting to make someone think and feel something about us
Yeah.
before we've even entered into relationship.
Mhm.
So when you know yourself, you can be conscious about that, right? Like I don't want an iPhone 16. Hi, the Congo. I'm not going to be a part of that. I'm going to
Mhm.
stick with my iPhone -20. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's my values. And if I lived in Mountain View or Los Altos, would that make me not as cool? Maybe.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
what is cool versus what I value? What is hip,
Mm.
know?
That's a really powerful question. Yeah. Like what is cool versus what do I actually value? And I think
Yeah.
it's just like when you can, this is why I like love this so much because I think when you can really understand the core of what you're trying to get at with things,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not just about the phone, it's not just about the water bottle, it's not just about fill in the blank,
Mm-mm.
whatever. It's about
Sure.
safety, right? It's
Yes.
about belonging, it's about
Mm-hmm.
safety. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm really after here.
Yeah.
So when I can see that and have conscious awareness of that, then it's like, how can I be that
Right.
for me and not
Right.
having to abdicate responsibility for that to a water bottle?
Ah, yes. Dear water bottle,
Dear
please
water
regulate my nervous
bottle,
system.
things are
Please,
over between us.
right? I need you to regulate my nervous system because I am
Uh-huh.
dysregulated around Regina George having a different water bottle.
Mm, mm.
And that's a problem.
Yeah. Well, take us here because
Yeah.
I would love to hear from you just some good places to start. I know you said thought work and
Yes.
somatic work.
Yes.
So I would love to hear about both. And obviously I
Yeah.
know, we don't have all the time in the world to like
We do a
fully dive
part two and a
into
part
each, but
three. Come on.
I know, honestly. You and I could talk all day, but maybe let's start with thought work. Let's just
Yeah.
start there because
Great.
again, I feel like thought work is a term I use the term a lot, but it's still
Yeah.
something that can be very foreign to people. I mean, a lot of people don't even understand the concept that
Oh,
like, or they don't
totally.
even know that thoughts are thoughts. They think they're
Yep.
facts.
Yeah, right.
Hmm.
Yeah, so thought work, as I use the term, comes from cognitive behavioral theory, and it's talking about neuroplasticity, which is our brain's amazing capacity to change, right? We can change our brain, which is the meat, it's the organ, and our mind, which is the consciousness and the thinking part. And so we use thought work to look at our habitual, unintentional, subconscious mindset. What are the thoughts that you're thinking on repeat? Like we started out a couple hours ago when we started talking with you saying, I'm looking at my sweet little 2-year-old. I could tell from your tone you love her so much. And I'm saying some BS to her. What just happened?
Yeah.
And so what happened was that a habitual neural groove in your brain got activated and fired, and
Hmm.
words came out of your mouth without you realizing. And so
Yeah.
thought work is where we can intervene before, during, and after those moments to change the way we think about ourselves, the world, codependency, our spending, so we can live with more intentionality by choosing thoughts that serve us better. This exercise of thought work is predicated on understanding that our habitual thoughts create specific feelings within us, where an emotion is the mechanical experience and the feeling is the story, right? The feeling is the sensations in the body. It's the like, what?
Mm.
Oh, I'm so disappointed. And
Hmm.
so our going to I'm so disappointed when he says I can't make it, that's a habitual pattern in the brain, and we can intervene, right? Because I don't
Hmm.
know about you, but I'm at a point where like if I get home from like a long day out and I taken my bra off, everyone can cancel. I'm no
Yes.
longer disappointed. Bras off, I'm off. No,
Yeah. That's
nope,
the point of
no,
no return for me.
no, girl, please. I'm not putting that thing back on. I stopped wearing underwires in the pandemic, changed my life, changed my
Yeah.
life. But
Yeah.
like I'm not even putting a bralette back on. No, ma'am.
Mm.
We're done.
We're done
Right.
for the
So like,
day.
right, we're done maybe for the week, let's be honest. And we're done till Christmas. But like,
Exactly.
right, but that's the thing. Right. So time changed that one, but we could use thought work to say, he canceled. How do I want to feel about it? And then we can see that our feeling is the fuel for our action. What do you do when you're feeling disappointed? You grumble, you complain about him behind his back, you people please him, you try to ingratiate yourself, you do things that you may not want to do. But
Hmm.
when you realize you can make a choice and you can, instead of feeling disappointed, feel kind of relieved, what's the action you take? Draw big old bubble bath, right?
Yeah.
Fire up the office and like relax
Hmm.
instead of spinning, because you
Yeah.
chose a different thought, a different feeling to create a different action and then create a different result in your life. So if you're chronically overspending, over purchasing, this is what you're doing. What are the thoughts you're having when you pick up your keys or your Metro card and you head to the subway or your car to go to the store? What's the thought there? What's your thought as you walk in? What's your thought as you peruse? What's your thought as you approach the counter? As you hand over your credit card? What are your thinkings? What are the
Yeah.
feelings creating? And so when we can really, we if we were to summarize what we've been talking about, I think for the last hour, it's the lack of presence and intentionality,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That's tantamount, like it's the cornerstone of what you and I both work on, which is why we can talk for hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so thought work regifts us the pause that allows for intentionality. Yeah, that
Yeah.
allows us to say, oh, I don't need to buy this. I actually don't even want to buy this. I'm buying this out of habit. Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a meme the other day that was like, girl, you don't want to go to Target. You just want to go to a museum and look at shiny things. Go to the Met. And I was like, that's actually like, yeah,
Yeah.
right? We
Yeah.
are magpies and we want to look at shiny things. I mean, if you're watching this video, look behind me. Like my office is like, I'm from Argentina. I call myself a Latin American minimalist, which means maximalism to its core. A shiny thing,
Yeah.
right? But what's the story you're making about your worth as an animal and the shiny thing? And do you really want to keep thinking
Mm.
that? If
Mm-hmm.
you're listening to this show, you probably don't, right? You want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
interrupt that. That's thought work in a nutshell. How'd I do?
Amazing. I
Oh,
love it.
yeah.
You
Oh, I'm
it,
so glad.
I know. I know. I loved it. That was so helpful. And yeah, I think the word that I'm really loving that you keep using is presence.
Yeah.
And I've never really thought about thought work that way, but you're right. I mean, it is like that's what it is. It's coming back to yourself
Yeah.
after like how you've been walking us through today, how emotional outsourcing kind of is this form of self-abandonment where you are
Mm-hmm.
leaving yourself and
Yeah.
it's bringing yourself back and having that presence with yourself
Yep.
in an environment where maybe previously you kind of just would have been, like just autopilot, right? You get on
Yep.
autopilot and you
Exactly.
just start going and going and going and
Yep.
you're taking the turns and you're doing the things and you don't even like realize it's happening.
Yep.
Like, have you ever like gotten in your car and you like drive somewhere and then you get to the place and you're like, I don't even remember driving here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm here. I
Yep.
clearly did, but
Yep.
I have completely
Yep.
zoned out for the past however
Yep.
long.
Yep. Freeze in the nervous system is generally what
Mm,
that is. Yeah. We can talk about that in part two, but yes, it's
yeah.
so common, right? My mom
Yeah.
used to do that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'd like end up at the elementary school on a Saturday morning when we were going to the grocery school.
Oh,
Grocery school. I went to grocery school, no big deal, bragging again. Uh-huh.
I know, but it's like, yeah, but it's like, how did I get here, right?
Right.
And to your point, like I hear this from women so often, like what you were saying
Mm.
earlier about how we just end up creating these lives that aren't really even about us or for us.
Oh
They're like for all
yeah.
the other people. But I hear this so
Yep.
often with women who they're like, I've kind of gotten to this point in my life where my life doesn't really even feel like me. Like I'm living in a house that doesn't feel like me. I'm wearing clothes that don't feel like me.
Yep.
I've developed habits. I'm just like going throughout my day in a way that doesn't really feel like me.
Yeah.
And I think that that can
Yeah.
be a really powerful realization and a really great
Mm.
place to start to be like, A, like you can change this at any time.
Yeah.
But I think it's just like, A, if you're feeling that way, you're not alone because I know a lot of people feel that way. But it is just interesting how we just go through the motions and then we end up creating this life that we're like, this doesn't even feel like me.
Absolutely. And it's full of stuff you didn't need to
Hmm.
buy, but that are objects in service of a false self.
Yeah. Mm.
Right? Purchases in service of telling the story that you are not you. You're mini Regina George, Regina
Mm.
George, the Redux, right?
Mm.
And again, I want to really, with a lot of compassion, curiosity, and care, invite us to get like to ask, why am I doing this? Why have I been doing this? Not so you can say, "Ugh, you're right, it doesn't." No, there's no good reason, but actually to find the good reason. And what
Yeah.
I mean is that little kid who was you, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago had a really damn good reason for pretending to be this false self. God, I remember this story. Love my dad. And I remember being at the Gap. I think I was like 12. And I had saved up all my little babysitting money. And I wanted to buy this sweatshirt. So I went in and I got it. Not unlike a magpie, I've had this habit of going and like visiting things I wanted to buy that felt like
Uh-huh.
very expensive. It was probably like $15, but I was 12, right?
Yeah.
And so I went and got the blue sweatshirt and I took it to my dad and I said, "This is the sweatshirt I want." And I remember him saying, "Oh, you want the blue one?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah, this is the one." He said, "Oh, okay." And human ears, are particularly kid ears, are wildly attuned to tone, right?
Yeah.
It's not what
Right.
you say, it's how you say it. Is
Yeah.
actually back to neuroscience. Like Stephen Porges talks all about this in polyvagal theory, about prosody of voice. And so of course I noticed that little tone and I said, "Wait, what do you think?" Because he was my everything, right? "Oh
Mm-hmm.
no, I mean, you should get the blue one if you want it, but I just think it's just my opinion. It doesn't matter. The green one would look so much better on you."
Mm.
"Oh, but I don't like that one. I like the blue one." "No, no, no. You get what you want. I mean, if only a fool would turn down the green one, but you get what you want. That's
Yeah.
what matters." Me, I would get the green all day. That's what I would get. So what did I do? I bought the green one
Mm.
and I hated it. I never put it on. And it was like
Mm.
this object that was like attempting to people please someone,
Yeah.
right? Attempting to do what I knew somebody else wanted me to do at the detriment of my true self, my true desire, my true want,
Mm.
right? His approval meant more to me
Yeah.
than like how I was going to spend. Probably I was 12. So, like, what, 6 months of babysitting money?
Yeah.
Like, serious nest egg here,
I mean,
right?
yeah, it's a lot of money to a
A
12-year-old.
lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that. Who cares about the sweatshirt, right? But we do that, to your point. We marry somebody we don't necessarily want to, have kids with them, go to a career we don't necessarily want to be in, stay in that career, get a promotion, live in a
Mm.
town we don't like, on and on and on and on. We are living these inauthentic lives because our nervous system learned so early that that actually was the wisest choice,
Mm.
right? And our parents don't have to be monsters. We don't have to grow up in trauma, right? Like my sweet dad took me to the Gap. The man hates shopping more than anything and probably thought he was like just sharing his opinion,
Yeah.
right? So I'm no one's throwing Jorge under any buses, right? But I think the point is a really good one, right? I was well fed, well housed, had, went to ballet and karate. This isn't a trauma story. It's a story of a misattunement,
Mm.
right? That registered in my body as being me and wanting what I want. Really dumb.
Mm.
So let me buy what will please others and
Yes.
be what will please others and
Mm-hmm.
contort myself to please others,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
sneaky. It's
It's so
insidious.
sneaky. It
Yeah.
really is so sneaky. Can you leave us with maybe just one practice that we can start implementing for the somatic piece, just
Yeah.
really kind of helping us bring us back into that
Yeah.
presence with our body?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of my favorites because it is so simple and easy, and you can do it. No one will know that you're regulating your nervous system. So, when we are revved up, we're in sympathetic activation, we're full of adrenaline, noradrenaline, and we're making decisions at the speed of light. And they're usually really terrible ones because we're trying to outrun a lion, but we're actually 12 and at the Gap. And so, what we need to do is get ourselves out of our limbic system, which is the reptile brain, the lizard brain, and back into our prefrontal cortex, our smarty pants, um, executive thinking part. And we do that with math. We're not going to get complicated. Don't worry. We do it with patterns and things that make the brain, yeah, just hold on to a pattern. We can do this if we're revved up, and sometimes we're shut down, right? So again, 12-year-old me, oh, you want me to get that one? Adrenaline. Oh, I can't be myself and be loved here. Shut down. So we're going to
Mm.
do two exercises, one for if you're just like jacked, anxious, or you're starting to get revved up, and one if you're like, I'm numbed out. I'm shopping, but I'm not. But where am I?
Mm.
So if you're going fast, you go slow. If you're going slow, you go fast. So
Oh,
you're going to
okay.
take your, yeah, you're going to take your little paw And you're going to take your thumb and you're going to tap your first finger. If you're going way too fast, if everything is sped up, and as slowly as you can, you're going to tap your first finger and your thumb and go 1, your New York finger and your thumb and go 2, your ring finger and go 3, your pinky and go 4. Now you're going to come back 4, 3, 2, 1. And you're going to go so slow, it's super annoying and like almost unbearable, but that's the point.
Yeah.
Trauma, even these little ones, is too much, too soon, too fast. Your sense of self couldn't stand up to whatever the external pressure or impact was. And so the nervous system goes into a rev up and to try to get out of it. So we slow it down. So you can, maybe that's your new rule. Before you're allowed to walk up to the cash, you count your fingers 1, 2, 3. Do I really need this? 4. 4. Do I really want it? 3.
Yeah.
2, 1. And if you're numbed out, you're checked out, you need to bring activation into the system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. I already have this at home. 3, 4, 4, right? And just keep counting and like working. So this is how my work is all about integrating thought work and somatics. So I'll use a new thought, a new mantra, and build it into a practice that engages the body. You're twice as powerful. Why leave half of you out?
Yeah.
Right. So if you're numbed out, checked out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you can do it, like you can put your hand in your armpit and you do it like half behind your back. No one knows you're doing it.
Right.
You can keep up a conversation if your brain works that way. Mine does. You can do it while driving. You can do it on a Zoom call. You can do it on a sales call. You can just, it's easy. Right. And it can buy you a little time, like we were talking about, to not people please, to not say sure, to not default yes, but to actually default to like, I need a second.
Yeah. And thank you for addressing both of those scenarios, right? Because I think that both of those happen a lot too. And depending on what you're in, whether you're kind of in that more like checked out, zoned out type of space, or you're just feeling like kind of supercharged and super activated and
oh my God, there's a great sale. Oh my God, I have to get it.
Gosh. That frantic energy, right? Like just
Yeah.
There's
I can hear my frugal grandmother saying it's not a deal if you don't need it. Right?
I mean, she's not wrong.
She's 0% wrong. But yes, calm the nervous system. Listen, I love a deal. But calm, regulate the nervous system and ask yourself if it's really a deal or something you need. Or if you're, again, trying to make a purchase, do emotional labor. It cannot do that. Neither can a glass of wine. Neither can, like whatever you're watching another show.
Yeah.
It cannot do emotional labor for you.
So good. Yeah. I've done a past episode where we talked about it. And it's just interesting to kind of know and again have conscious awareness over this, where most of the marketing that you're gonna get, whether it's like flash sales or this or that, or like, 24 hours or like whatever, like it's designed to dysregulate you.
Urgency. Yep. Yeah, I've been, always trying to do more ethical marketing. When I'm marketing anchored, I always say, like, we start in November, there's lots of spots left.
Yeah.
Because like, I
don't worry, you'll be able to get in.
You're fine. I know. It's totally fine. We do sell out every single time, but I say it with this tone. That is a fact. There is no urgency.
Yeah. I know.
I don't want to be part of the problem.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, it is I mean, from a, if you are somebody trying to sell something, you see how effective it is, right? And getting people, because there's, you've talked a lot with us today about fear. And fear is like the underlying, it just comes back to that fear. Like we spending so much money out of fear. But another that will be part 4 of our conversation.
Okay, we've got so many parts to
I
this,
know we've got I think we're up to 4 parts at this point. So
wow.
I know a lot we can dig into, but we're at time for today.
Yes.
Thank you so much for just
such a delight.
It was. Honestly, I feel just like so lucky that I got to like spend time with you today.
Likewise.
Truly.
Likewise.
All right, Victoria, thank you for being here.
Thank you.